for some reason I worked this page and the next page and it stopped after I was done with this, but at least I'd gotten done with that one. Okay, so it says solve by quadratic formula. Well, quadratic formula is negative b plus or x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, now this is the problem. This was our original problem. I'm going to bring it over here. 2x squared plus 9x minus 5 equals 0. Now you will remember from the last video, I think I have it underneath here someplace. Yeah, there it is. Okay, that we found the discriminant, the b squared minus 4ac, we found it to be 121. Okay, we solved by factoring, and when we did that we found our answers to be negative 5 and a positive 1/2. Okay, that's what we did down here. Okay, now we should come up with the same answer over here. So I just transferred this problem over to here. So our b is 9, so it's going to become negative 9 plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. We already did that here from our last video, which was 121, which is a perfect square, all over 2 times my a, which is 2, because I'm not going to do that all over again. Okay, now I get negative 9 plus or minus the square root of 121 is 11 all over 4. Now, don't leave your answer this way. We don't have any radicals. This gives us two answers. We have negative 9 plus 11 divided by 4. And we have the second answer of negative 9 minus 11 divided by 4. Well, this gives me 2/4, which reduces to 1/2. That was one of our answers that we got right here. Over down here, we get negative 20 divided by 4, which gives us negative 5, and that was our other answer. So it didn't matter whether we solved by factoring or quadratic, we got the same answer. Okay, now I get to do these all over again because for some reason it just did not do that. Okay, all right, so first of all we're going to find the discriminant. That is our, well, the discriminant is b squared minus 4ac. b is our middle term, the number that's in front of our x. So that is a positive 8 squared. I don't care if that would have been a negative. When I square it, it's always going to give me a positive 64. 8 squared is 64. Minus 4 times my a, which is 1, times my c, which is 15. So 64, and then 4 times 15 gives us 60. That gives us 4. That is a perfect square, so I know this factors. I'm going to have two answers. So I'm going to factor it, x plus 3, x plus 5. You factor it however you want to. I'm not showing that part. Now, each factor that has an x in it, we set equal to 0. We're going to say x plus 3 equals 0, and we're going to say x plus 5 equals 0. I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. Whoops. Let's try subtracting 3 here. Over here, we're going to subtract 5 from both sides. Here I get x is equal to negative 3. Over here, I get x is equal to negative 5. Now you can write your answer separate like that, or you can write it as, I think Alex is going to tell you to write it with a comma between it. But either answer is fine for me. Just have them both. Now over here, you're going to take the 1 to the other side by subtracting it, because in order to do this, you have got to get it set equal to 0. So you're going to say 2x squared minus 6x minus 1 equals 0. Now, to find out whether or not it's going to factor, and even if it doesn't, you're not wasting your time because you're going to need this for quadratic formula. You're going to say negative 6 squared. That's going to give you a positive 36. So be careful about plugging it into your calculator. You have to have parentheses around it. Minus 4 times our a, which is 2, times our c, which is negative 1. So when I do this, right here, negative 4 times 2 is negative 8, times positive 1 gives us a positive 8. So that gives me 44. 44 is not a perfect square, so I know that is not going to factor. So that means I'm going to use quadratic formula. X equals negative b, so the opposite of a negative 6 is 6, because it'd be negative negative 6, which becomes a positive, plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, which is all of this, which is 44. I don't know why I made that so long. All over 2 times my a is 2. Now, one problem here is this has to be simplified. The square root of 44 is, you can write that, the biggest perfect square is 4. So the square root of 4 gives us 2. So really this can be simplified as 2 times the square root of 11, and you need to, because you always need your answers in simplified form. So you have x equals 6 plus or minus 2 times the square root of 11 all over 4. Now, here's what I'm going to do. This is not simplified, it's almost, but I can reduce these two and I can reduce these two. I can reduce all three of them by 2. So what I do to one I have to do to all. So I'm going to divide each one of these by 2. I'm going to divide this one by 2 and I get 3. Divide this by 2 and I get 1. And divide this by 2 and I get 2. So my answer is 3 plus or minus the square root of 11. If you want to put a 1 in front of it, it's fine, but we don't need it, all over 2. That is what x is equal to. Now when you go to put this in ALEKS, you're going to say 3 plus the square root of 11 divided by 2, and you're going to say 3 minus the square root of 11 divided by 2. But on the test, you can do either. Now, why did this work? That's because I can really split that up and say 6 divided by 4 plus or minus 2 square root of 11 divided by 4, and I can reduce it here. This is going to reduce to 3/2 plus or minus, and this reduces to square root of 11 over 2, or 1/2, same thing. And because they have the same denominator, you can put them back together, put them all over one denominator, and that's where we get this from. But I just think it's just as easy to do it here. Okay, this one right here. Got to get it set equal to 0 to find out if it's going to factor. So I get 3x squared plus 4x plus 2. Again, I'm going to add 4x to both sides as y, because that gives us 0. And I can't combine anything because this is an x squared and that's an x. We're adding, can't do that. We're going to do our discriminant, which is what's underneath. It's at b squared minus 4ac. Our b is 4, so 4 to the second power minus 4 times our a, which is 3, times our c, which is 2. This gives me 16 minus 12, 24. That gives me negative 8. That's going to tell me I can't work this problem. It is no solution, because we'd end up with an imaginary or a complex number, and in our class we do not deal with that. Okay, so really, even if you didn't catch it, you'd say x equals negative b, which is negative 4, plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, which gives us that negative 8, all over 2 times our a, which is 3. Well, we're not allowed to take square roots of negative numbers in our class. If this was 1710, we would. Those of you that know about okay, are imaginary numbers. But for us, our answer is going to be no real solutions. So it makes it a little bit easier on us. We do not have to worry about it. I don't like that A. Okay, so, all right, right here, we're going to have to distribute the 2x. 2x times x is 2x squared. 2x times 2 gives us 4. Let's try 4x. 2x times 2 gives us 4x equals 5. Well, I got to get this 5 to the other side by subtracting it, because I have to have one side equal to 0. 2x squared plus 4x minus 5 equals 0. Now you will notice that I haven't completed the square on any of these. The only one that you could have would have been here, but it was just as easy to factor as it would be to do completing the square. I would never complete the square here because it has a leading coefficient. Same thing here, same thing here. Now if that was an x squared, maybe, okay, but not. I've only had one student in the 13 years I've been at Pellissippi to choose that. Okay, so we're going to stick to quadratic formula. Let's see if it factors. B squared minus 4ac, that's our discriminant. It's what's underneath that radical. Our b is 4 squared, that gives us 16. You can put parentheses around it, doesn't matter. If it's negative, it needs it if you're going to use your calculator. Minus 4 times my a, which is 2, times my c, which is negative 5. So I have 16. 2 negatives is positive, or you can say negative 4 times 2 is negative 8. Negative 8 times 5, negative 5 gives me a positive 40. That gives me 56. 56 is not a perfect square. So x equals negative b, because that tells me it's not going to factor, so it's negative 4 plus or minus the b square root of b squared minus 4ac, but we've already done that and got 56, all over 2 times my a, which is 2. Well, I can simplify the square root of 56. It is, I forgot what it was, 4 times 14. Okay, let's say, and I just knew 4 went into 56. You can do the 14 times. You can do this y equals on your calculator and go to the table. If you didn't know that, you can do the factor tree for 56. Chances are you do 2 times 28, 2's prime. I always bring my prime numbers down so that everything's on one line so you don't miss something. 2 times 14, 2's prime, bring it down, 2's prime, bring it down, and 14 is 2 and 7. So underneath the radical, we have 2 times 2 times 2 times 7. Well, because it's square root, you need 2 of each number to bring 1 out, because 2 times 2 is 4, square root of 4 is 2. So I have 2 on the outside, and I have 2 times 7, which is 14 on the inside, and that's what this is going to give me. Hold on. 2 times 2 is 4. So now I have, if I take the square root of 4, it gives me 2. I'm just doing this again a different way. 2 times the square root of 14, all over 4. Now, each of the 3 can be reduced by 2. If I divide this by 2, I get negative 2. If I divide this by 2, I get 1. If I divide this by 2, I get 2. What you do to one, you got to do to all of them. So I'm going to have negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 14 all over 2. And that's it. The other way, oh, in ALEKS, I forgot to show you the, oh, I did up here. I did show you in ALEKS. Okay, you'd have to separate them. Now, the other way you could have done this is if you did what I showed you here, the other answer would be, this is 1. Negative 2 divided by 2 would give us negative 1 plus or minus the square root of 14 over 2. I personally like it this way, but either of these answers is right. And just make sure that you separate them with comma. Do the plus 1 and then plus negative 2 plus square root of 14 over 2, comma, negative 2 minus the square root of 14 all over 2. Okay. I'm going to stop it right here.